I guess, Brian, I think we're streaming now. Okay. I would like to call to order the Monday, June 21st meeting of the Monona City Council. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alder Moore,
Here.
Alder Goforth,
Here.
Alder Wood,
Here.
Alder Coor,
Here.
Alder Thomas,
Here.
Alder Groupie,
Here.
Mayor O'Connor.
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the June 7th meeting?
I'll move approval.
Is there a second? Any corrections or additions?
I have one correction. It's on page 6. Let's see. It is so it starts the page starts Police Chief Cheney Austin. In the second paragraph, it says a motion by Alder Thomas, seconded by Alder Christie. I don't mind being, like Madonna and just going by my first name, but I just thought I'd point it out for consistency's sake.
That's a typo for sure. Thank you.
No problem.
Anyone else? Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Opposed? Minutes are approved. We have a couple of appearances tonight. First up is Eric Redding regarding the Monona Community Festival. Eric?
Hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm here. Hey,
There
Mary.
you are.
The pop-up. Well, thanks, everyone. It's obviously that time of year again for me to say hello and talk a little bit about the festival. I'm glad to actually be doing this this year. Obviously, after what we've all gone through in the last year plus, it's exciting to be having an event again and to actually be planning fun summer festivities. So just wanted to update the council a little bit on some of the things that we've got new going on this year. The biggest thing is that we actually have a 3-day festival this year. So we have the 3rd and the 4th as normal, but we also are starting on July 2nd this year with some music and trivia that evening. A couple other changes that folks will notice right away is our beer garden space is a little bit larger than it has been in years past. Part of the reason we're doing this is more space is always better, but especially since we're coming out of a pandemic, people are, vaccination rates are great in Dane County, everything like that. We still want to provide more space as possible to give people that comfort level. So for a lot of folks, this is probably gonna be their first time coming out to a large event. So we just wanna make sure it's comfortable and people don't feel like they're being crammed into an area. So that's kind of one of our bigger updates, in terms of spacing. In terms of the COVID piece, we've also are doing things like increasing hand sanitizer stations. We're adopting QR codes. We're going to plaster all over the place that have ticket prices and food and the beverage menus to kind of cut down on some of the lines, things like that. It's also something that people have just come to expect over the last year, going to restaurants, things like that. So we're trying to do as much as we can to keep things in as normal as possible, but also accommodate the fact that we are still on the tail end of a pandemic. A couple other pieces. Probably the biggest thing that longtime folks coming to the festival will recognize is we actually have a new entrance. So after the 2019 festival, we actually received a lot of feedback from folks talking about the difficulty it is for people with ADA needs to actually get into the main entrance of the festival. You've got to kind of go down that little hill on Healy or come all the way around. It's just not easy. So what we're actually doing is moving our main entrance to Nichols Road. So it's going to be right by the sidewalk. So it'll be very easy for folks to be able to come to the handicap parking area that we have in the community center and easily get across the street and use the sidewalk to get into the festival grounds itself, just to make it easier for folks to get there. We will still have the old entrance, as we're now calling it, open during the day to allow folks that have been coming there for the last 30 years to that entrance. Those people will come in that way, and we'll keep that open just for the flow of traffic. That's something that we will close off in the evenings when we start wristbanding attendees, and it kind of turns more into that true beer garden versus more just a space that people come throughout the day. A couple other quick things new. We have a big new event this year is a strongman competition taking place on July 3rd. We have over 50 participants who are taking part in 5 different feats of strength and endurance throughout the entire day. So we're expecting a lot of people coming in for that. We've actually got half of the the participants coming in are not from Dane County. So we've got a lot of folks coming in. We've got a large room block at Avid Hotel that we've got. I think it's almost filled up, if not completely. So we're expecting a lot of folks to be kind of coming into Monona and seeing Monona for the first time for a lot of folks. So we're excited for that. It's going to be a really fun activity that we're going to have on July 3rd. So those are kind of the big pieces of what we've got new this year. Obviously, we've got the fireworks bigger and better than we've had in years past. We figured that coming out of a year of not having fireworks and a year of what we've all gone through, we need to have a pretty big, fun fireworks show. So we definitely have a good one on the schedule for this year on July 4th. I do want to thank, obviously, the city across the board for your support for the event, not only from the tourism grant that is helping support financially, but the support that everyone across the city provides, from the police department, fire department, parks department, public works, admin, literally everyone we're working with to make this a safe and successful event. And really, kudos to everyone there for helping us out, and then to the city council, all of you as well, for enabling that support to happen. So thank you all for that. We're in our 36th year of the festival, the modern era of the festival, and it goes back farther than that in different forms. But we're really excited. This is going to be a big year, a year of celebration from what we've gone through over the last 15 months. So really encourage everyone here to come on down to the festival over the 3 days. There are, as you all know, there's plenty of opportunities to volunteer. If you go to mononafestival.com, there is a volunteer section. So if anyone wants to try their ticket selling skills or helping hand out cold beverages, we'd be more than happy to have some help on the second, third, and fourth this year. So thank you all for your support. And I guess if there's any questions that any of you have.
Anyone have any questions for Eric? Doesn't look like. I think everybody's looking forward to it, and I'm assuming it is going to be jam-packed over there. So
We're hoping. Everyone, cross your fingers for good weather, and hoping for a real good 3-day festival.
great. Well, thank you, Eric.
Awesome. Thank you all.
Okay. Next up is Megan Jackson of WPS Health Solutions, and I think we have there's a memo regarding this at the beginning of your packet as well.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out, and thank you for hearing me this evening. I appreciate your time. I wanted to talk a little bit about one of the resolutions that's on your agenda today, Resolution 21-6-2501, approving a certified survey map for WPS. WPS submitted a CSM for its sale of a lot to One City Schools. And we tweaked the CSM a little bit so that One City would get the entirety of WPS Drive, as opposed to just splitting it down the middle. And the reason we did that is to just make it clear where One City's property is and where their traffic flow is and where ours is. And that was approved at the Plan Commission, that certified survey map. But then there were some conditions that were added to it, which are fine. I guess we wanted to kind of clarify one of the conditions on it, which is condition number 3. And one of that condition said that that we maintain cross-access easements between the properties. And that condition was imposed on the CSM based on like an earlier easement that WPS had agreed to back in 2001. And the whole purpose of that 2001 easement was to make sure that when we did a CSM, that there weren't any lots that didn't have access to public roads. My understanding is that, you need to have access to a public road in order to get your CSM approved, which all makes good sense. And so the issue that we have is that the lot that One City is buying, it already has access to a public road. So it doesn't need an easement because it can just use Bridge Street to go out to Broadway. So the easement as it applies to One City doesn't really make sense because it has access directly. And so I guess the point of this, my memo and this little presentation is to request clarification on that condition number 3, that it applies to like the WPS lots and the lots that don't have access. So WPS is fine complying with lot number 3. We just want to make sure that the non-WPS lots that have access to public roads aren't included because it just doesn't make sense. And WPS and One City are in agreement on this point, and the condition wasn't required by the staff report at all. So it seems very reasonable to exclude the One City lot from this easement. And I just the kind of rationale for why we're raising this, we do think that there is real security risk and liability risk with the two properties having intercrossing traffic, right? So like working at WPS, we're office workers and we sit down, and so we often will walk around the campus and do a little loop or whatever. And at One City, conversely, there's kids that are going to playgrounds or doing walking field trips or whatever. We do think there is risk there, and so the best way to minimize the risk is to just separate it. And so that's we just have real concerns about having this easement continue to apply to One City's lot 2. So, I guess that's sort of the overview of what we're requesting. And then it's stated, more formally in the packet, which Mayor O'Connor just pointed out. Are there any questions on that right now?
Otherwise, I think we will be discussing this later in the agenda.
Okay, yeah, I'll be around.
Yeah, if you'll stay around if we do have some
Okay.
questions.
Sounds good.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. We do have a request from Phil DeVillers to speak, but I don't see him here unless he's using a different name. So I guess given that, I will declare the appearance is closed. There is no public hearing. There is no consent agenda.
Mayor O'Connor, sorry, Mayor O'Connor.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just received one additional public appearance request from Jared Walker Smith.
Yes, thank you, Brian. My name is
Okay.
Jared Walker Smith. I'm the attorney for One City Schools, and
Okay,
just wanted to add that we support the CSM. And I know that it's going to be on the topic of conversation for later, but for all the reasons that Megan just discussed, One City really supports the separation of the two campuses. We're going to be addressing that with the Plan Commission as well at the July 12th hearing, and we hope that on July 19th that the City Council will consider the request of WPS here. Thank you.
okay, thank you. All right, we will move on then to unfinished business. Item 1A, consideration of renewal application for 2021-2022 patio permit. Breakwater Monona LLC doing business as Breakwater, 6308 Inland Way, put forth by the License Review Committee. Is there a motion to remove this from the table?
So moved.
I'll second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, who is going to address this?
From Breakwater?
Oh, okay, is that Tim Tripkosh here?
Yes,
Doug,
it
did
is.
you want to? I guess I was wondering who from the council or the city was going to address this.
That's what I figured.
Okay,
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we, License Review Committee did approve the permit again for both the beer garden and the outdoor patio. The only change on the beer garden, which actually it didn't require a variance, but they're going to, I think the plan is to have table service up there as well as the beer garden And I know obviously there are noise issues that I expect, hope Tim will address, and others may as well, but I guess I sort of see that as a noise or a amplified permit issue rather than, whether we should allow them to have the patio or the beer garden.
Anyone else, or does anyone have any questions for Mr. Tripkosh? Alder Kur, and then Alder Thomas.
Well, I think the reason that we had tabled this and asked the owners to attend the meeting was that there were concerns that were raised at the last meeting about the noise in the neighborhood on the nights that they have amplified device permits, and the fact that they have multiple evenings during the week as well as on the weekends, and that the noise has been considerably loud. I know that PD has been over there to discuss this with them prior to our asking them to come to this meeting. I'm not sure if they've been there since then. I'll let the chief weigh in if he'd like, but I do want to express my concern with not the renewal of these permits, but the issues that have been raised around these permits, and that having amplified device access is a privilege. And if you're not going to comply with those things, it makes it difficult for us to want to renew other licenses as well. So I think that I've heard that the noise has decreased in the last 2 weeks, which I am pleased to hear. However, the noise is still loud. And so I know that people are paying attention. So I encourage you to be mindful of your neighbors, be a good steward of these permits. And that's all.
Okay, well, I'm going to call on the other council members and then I'll ask Mr. Tripkosh to respond. So Alder Thomas?
I just have the same concerns, and I would like Breakwater to respond to what they think about it and what they can do about it and what they will do about it.
Okay. Anyone else? Alder Moore?
Yeah, I would just echo the same thing, and also echo, which is to say, we tabled it so that we could hear from Breakwater.
Mhm.
And I'd like to do that. And second, as Alder Kerr suggested, if the chief could weigh in on his conversations as well, it'd be much appreciated.
Okay. Well, let's let Mr. Tripkosh and then Chief, if you want to weigh in after that.
Well,
Tim?
the chief could go first. I wasn't here, but I know I was informed that he came in. So I'm not privy to the conversation he had with my business partner, but but we were coming up with the plan to have him come out and set our speaker levels, because I went out and bought a new PA system. One of the issues we had is we get 4 different artists or 5 different artists coming in a week. One of them might have a small little tower system, and the other one might have 2 big speaker boxes up on towers, and it elevates. We've eliminated percussion of like loud sound. That's the snare drums and things like that carry where sound carries. With the speaker system that we have, we are able to set it remotely with our phone, because we can link into it with Bluetooth. So I was under the assumption that when the police chief came, that we were going to try to set sound limits to that system, and then have that system be the system that the musicians had to use. And then we would know the levels at which we would be able to have them play music. We're trying, it's a learning thing. It's not like we're doing it on purpose. I've talked to the neighbors across the channel. Not one of them, well, maybe one of them, because she doesn't answer the door, but not one of them has an issue with it. It's the issue stems from people a few blocks away, which yes, the music is probably too loud, but I can also hear a lawnmower going from that far when it's quiet too. Over here, there's boats that drive by with their speakers where overpowers the musicians all day long, consistently. So, you know, we're trying. The people that seem to have an issue with it, they could easily call here and tell us to turn the music down. We'd be more than happy to. I would rather just have a level set by that's agreed upon by the police chief. We're not trying to be a nuisance to the neighborhood. We're trying to bring, we're trying to bring business in, one, but we're also trying to bring an environment that is good to the public. And it's not always the easiest. So I think buying the PA system, having it set, having the limit set by the police chief, I think is a good step. Is it the end all? I don't know. I mean, you have the Monona Days has bands and it's loud till 9 o'clock at night, and there's residential right around there, and that's above the noise variance that's allowed. So, I mean, there are exceptions, and I'm not looking for a consistent. I'm just saying we might make, like, what was it? A week ago, the police were called and they came by, or maybe 2 weeks ago, and they couldn't even hear the music from the front when they rolled their window down and drove by, but they had a complaint. So, I mean, somebody's just, sometimes you can't, I don't know what to do. I mean, it's a very successful event. There's been no issues with it other than the noise that is softer than most noises that come from the channel. And definitely not bothering the people that when we first started that you guys were worried were going to be bothered by, which were the neighbors, which were the residents across the street.
Chief, do you have something to add?
Yes, just briefly, thank you. I can say that myself, along with our community officer, we were aware of music permit that I had issued. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. I did make a tour through the surrounding neighborhood to see if I could hear anything. Total slow crawl. I did pass and stood by one of the complaining neighbors, I would say, to which I was concerned that the noise was traveling in such a fashion down the valley of homes, or somehow was really impacting that particular house. I can tell you I could not hear the music, and it was until I responded to the establishment, again unannounced, in which I can hear the music, and I did not find it to be unreasonable. My concern about setting sort of limits is that, again, as I referenced earlier or in the previous council meeting, is that there's the total science to how sound travels. And I don't want to necessarily set a decibel limit that will be reasonable one day and unreasonable the next based on the humidity in the air. So I'm very challenged with sort of setting decibel levels. What I'd like to continue to do is to rely on some of the language and ordinance that the noise has to be at a quote reasonable end quote level, and let police officers be your sort of ears out there in determining what is creating an unreasonable disturbance to members of the community. One of the things I did do also is that no longer will there be 2-month-long permit signatures by me for anyone who wants to have noise amplification. I think that I reserve the right to say no, and to an earlier comment, I believe that it is certainly a privilege to have that amplification permit. But I do feel like businesses do thrive on having live music and that entertainment value, and I want to strike a balance between what's reasonable for the community and then what's acceptable and what we should allow a good, healthy, surviving business to have. And so this topic is coming up on the agenda on the next Public Safety Committee meeting this week. And one of the ideas, a little preview of that I will be presenting, is perhaps whenever you have a licensed establishment who asks for a series of amplification permits, that perhaps that be reviewed by a different governing body other than a sole person such as the chief of police. Perhaps that should instead be referred to the license review committee or the public safety committee, and that the same can apply for a permit I just signed not too long ago for the community festival that obviously will impact a large group of residents in the area. That although I think that I am capable of making decisions, I think that perhaps it's worthy of discussion and debate at a committee level that authorizes such permits. But that's just an idea and a thought that I want to raise to a public safety committee to debate and come back to this body with recommendation on. And so to this date, we have not received, to my knowledge, the last time I checked, I did not check today, but we have not received any subsequent noise complaints into the police department directly from residents about the sound amplification at the breakwater. And one of the last things I did at council was I asked those who had concerns about the music to please call the non-emergency number. And so I did verify at least a couple days ago, yesterday I believe it was, that we had not received any complaints. But also I had asked my community officer and officers to be vigilant and be proactive, and that if they felt that in their patrols and in the surrounding neighborhoods they believe the music to be unreasonable, then they are to address it. And that has not been the case either, where they have found it, they have identified the music to be unreasonable. So I do think that there are attempts of the breakwater to address the noise concerns, and my officers have standing orders to make sure that they are in compliance with the unreasonable noise ordinance as it stands.
Does anyone else have any? Alder Groupie.
I just want to say, Chief, I appreciate the comments and the recommendations. I think based on our conversation at the last meeting about the approval process for this, I think those are really valid concerns to be sharing, and also great suggestions to think about how we can look at this process a little differently and maybe have a different process moving forward to make sure that we're not running into these noise complaints or issuing these long-term device amplification permits. One thing I would say is, I appreciate this conversation as a whole. I'm grateful that the proprietor of the breakwater is here tonight. But I don't think it's a valuable thing to say, I don't know what to do, or other noises are happening in the community that I can't control. Typically bands do bring their own device amplification systems to, play a set at a venue. And so I think there are some easy steps that the breakwater could take where they ask about this information. What equipment are you going to bring? What's the setup of your band? What's that going to look like? And there should be more of a process of screening and just awareness about this that happens versus don't really know. And, there are other noises in the community that we can't control. So I appreciate that it sounds like efforts have been taken to reduce the noise from breakwater. I hope that continues. I hope that, we just continue to be respectful of each other as a community. But I guess I would just hope to see some more proactive, tangible things coming from breakwater to show us that they are doing the work on their end to assist in this process.
We've already spoken to each band. There is a band the band that caused the initial complaint was they usually use a cajon, which is a softer, lower bass, and he hurt his back, so he used snare drums that night, and he was playing on snare drums, and that's the night the complaint came in. He asked to do that the week after. When we confronted him, it just said he can't do that anymore. He asked if he could because his back still hurt, and we said no. And outside of that, they're no longer bringing their own PA systems in. Like I said, we bought our own PA system for them to hook into along with the mixing board. So we spent thousands of dollars to create a system that would be in our control and allow us to, like I said, it's got Bluetooth capability, so we can walk to the edge of property lines. If we deem it's loud, we can actually turn it down from the edge of the property line, because I know that is where, by definition of the code, is where the, I guess, fictitious line goes straight up and it has to be at a certain level. But I mean, I don't have a decibel reader that goes all the way up to the up to the sky. So, but we have done things, and like I said, I do have a decibel reader on my phone that I've used in the past, but again, there are certain physics and there's certain wind direction, all these different things play a part in the way sound travels. And so, that's what I'm saying. I do everything we can on a normal circumstance. And I think that has been shown by our desire to always be proactive in preventing this. The guys, we've told bands they can't come because we know they're going to be too loud just from the stuff we've seen when they've auditioned and stuff. So we're taking the steps that we know what we're doing. And I think that's, we speak to each artist individually. So when I say I don't know what else we can do, I mean, it's not because I'm not trying, it's because we've already exhausted a lot of resources, time, and effort into adhering to the code or the variance as written in order to keep our privilege, because we do view it as a privilege. I mean, it is nice to be able to have music, and I know it's appreciated amongst patrons that come in here. And so we don't want to lose that. So we are, even if it's softer music, that's fine. It's music. So.
Okay, well, thank you. Does anyone else have anything to say? Okay, if there's nothing further, then all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. We'll move on to the next item, 1B, consideration of renewal application for 2021-2022 Beer Garden for Breakwater Monona, LLC, doing business as Breakwater, 6308 Inland Way, also put forth by the License Review Committee. Is there a motion to remove this from the table?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion on this? Any questions for Mr. Tripkosh? Okay, if there's nothing, then all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion is approved. Thank you. And thank you for coming, Mr. Tripkosh.
Thank you.
We'll move on to new business. The first item 2A is start for immediate action, consideration of resolution 21-6-2500. Resolution in support of Monona Grove School transgender, non-binary, and all LGBTQ plus students and individuals, put forth by Alder Groupie and myself. Is there a motion to take this out of order?
I'll move to
So
put it
moved.
out of order.
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Motion to approve.
I'll move.
Second.
Alder Groupie, do you want to address this?
Yeah, in our conversations last week or last meeting about DEI initiatives to show our support to the community, and just continuing with our, I guess, string of important resolutions acknowledging different groups who tend to be marginalized or I think persecuted by our legislature in this state and just generally across the country and in the world. I wanted to submit this. I give major thanks to Susan Fox of the Monona Grove School Board, who drafted a similar resolution that was passed by the school board in May. And I borrowed a lot of language and recommendations from her to craft the language of this particular resolution. It speaks specifically to recent legislation passed by our Republican Senate about discrimination against women, transgender female athletes. And I think it's unreasonable, inappropriate, and this resolution kind of outlines why. But in trying to sort of marry our goals as a community, which includes the council, our city leadership, and the school system, I wanted to bring forth a similar resolution to acknowledge our students and other LGBTQ plus individuals in our community who may be feeling a little bit, frustrated and continually kind of pushed down by legislation such as this. So.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, Alder Coor.
I just wanted to thank Maya for putting this forward. I think this is really important. I think it's important for Monona to use their voice when we can to support these types of resolutions, because it's clear that the legislature is not working in our favor. And so I think that's really important to make sure that we're using our voice and being a welcoming community, I should say. So thank you very much.
Anyone else? Okay, now I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Next, item B, consideration of resolution 21-6-2501, approving a certified survey map, CSM, for lots 1 and 2 of CSM 15671 and lot 3 of CSM 10267 at 1707 West Broadway, brought forth by the Plan Commission. And this, I guess, is Mr. Plowman is here. Doug, if you'd like to talk about this, and we also have Megan Jackson has stayed in the meeting if we have questions for her.
Absolutely. Good evening, everybody. So this request was brought forward by the Plan Commission. It was a request by WPS to amend and to adjust the recently recorded CSM. As mentioned, the primary goal here was with the pending sale to One City Schools to adjust the east-west boundary running on WPS Drive, which is the north-south sort of access street within there. As the CSM was originally recorded, that the boundary line took the center line of the street. So each property owner would have had half of the street. So for maintenance purposes and just for ease of use between the two parties, the request came forward to adjust that, to push the boundary to the west, such that WPS would take the entire street and not just one half. So the process for that was that it had a pre-hearing with the Plan Commission on May 24th with a formal.
Quickly, it's that One City gets the whole street.
I'm sorry. Thank you. So there was a pre-hearing at May 24th Plan Commission with the formal recommendation coming, which was included in the memo on June 14th. I did also go to Public Works for recommendation on June 2nd and did receive that recommendation. There was general consensus from the commission that the CSM was reasonable, made sense from a maintenance point of view between the two parties. And as mentioned, the real discussion came from the cross-access easement and sort of some of the history there. So I'm prepared to talk about that, and I know we have other folks here as well on the line that can do that. So I did, this was brought up at the pre-hearing, and so between then and the formal recommendation, I did sort of follow the paper trail from the original 2001 CSM, and it appears, and this would align with the existing ordinance as well, that the intent of this was really to ensure that there was access between from each parcel to a public street. And that is required by the ordinance, by the land division, subdivision ordinance for access to streets is required. No proposed land division shall be approved unless the resulting lots front on a dedicated street of at least 60 feet in width. And so the intent there was to ensure that remain the case. That is sort of the paper trail that exists from the Plan Commission minutes from 2001. And so it was directed that as part of the CSM back then, this document be recorded. There was discussion at the most recent Plan Commission meeting of sort of access between parcels, as well as access off of the parcels onto the public streets. And I think that that's really where this discussion has come to at this point. And so that really seems to be where it is. The third condition was listed here, the recommendation from the Plan Commission for the applicant to maintain the cross-access easement between all parcels. I know from discussion that WPS are comfortable maintaining among their own parcels and possibly adjusting either the existing or recording a new document. But I think that the intent or the hope from the applicant here is to sort of separate off between the One City and the WPS parcels. And so with that, I'd be happy to answer questions or for others to speak as well.
Could I just ask a question, Doug? Did the Plan Commission then address that concern? Was that raised at Plan Commission, whether to continue the cross-access easement with One City and WPS?
It was to, and jump in Alder Moore as well, if or Alder Goforth as well. My understanding was that it was really used almost interchangeably between the access to the street as well as access across the parcels.
But was the request that, my understanding is WPS is asking that we revise it to not require that between One City and WPS. Did the Plan Commission have that question in front of them, and what did they say about it if they did?
Having watched it back, it was not discussed particularly in detail between those. I think there was some discussion of sort of access across all parcels, including the potential One City parcel as well. But it was not, I think it was more interchangeable, and there wasn't too much discussion before that condition was added as a suggested recommendation to the council.
Thanks.
Alder Moore.
Yeah, I would just say that certainly I watched the meeting back as well, and my recollection is that the Planning Commission was very supportive of the change of the CSM, but saw the cross easement as a separate issue that both One City Schools and Ken Rosa from WPS pointed out will be brought forward to us in future meetings coming up. And so we were happy to support the CSM change, but we wanted to, we do have some concerns around the cross easement. And, you know, there's still ways in which, you know, as WPS has pointed out and One City Schools has pointed out in their presentations before the commission, that they really don't know how the traffic flow is going to work. You know, at one point, One City Schools talked about having very large events in the evenings, community events. It's one of the things that they're committed to as a school, which is fantastic, but where they might be using, you know, WPS Drive as well as Bridge and Angle, and they're not sure about the volume of traffic in terms of the drop off and pickup of kids as they increase in size, et cetera. And so we really, as a commission, wanted to take the easement issue as a separate issue aside from the CSM.
Alder Thomas.
Yeah, I guess I would like to ask Ms. Jackson, what is the harm of doing the cross easement? Why does WPS not want to do that? And what are the implications of doing it?
Sure. So creating the cross easement is going to create traffic flow across both of our campuses. WPS has a lot of walkers that walk around campus. One City Schools has lots of children that are going to be walking around. It's going to be, there might be kids going to the gas station across the WPS campus. There's going to be kind of a rush to get in at the start time. And same with WPS. We think that there is a real liability, safety, security risk to all of that intermingling. And so it is just better to create sort of separate zones. I would also say this easement, the 2001 easement was put in place so that lots that didn't have access to public roads could use WPS's private drives so that they could get to the public roads. It's just not applicable to One City. And I know that there's traffic concerns about One City, but that is a separate issue that I know Jared is planning on taking up at length at a future meeting. So we do view it very seriously as a security and a liability risk.
Alder Groupie.
I Are there any means by which things could be restricted temporarily, for example, for evening events, and or are there any sort of liability or other waivers that, you know, attendees of the school could sign so that, I mean, if the issue is WPS is worried about this influx of, you know, children intermingling with their own staff and just sort of the worries about proximity, which it sounds like that's part of it. I'm just wondering what sort of other, you know, if not, you know, taking this easement out of the CSM, what are some other actions that possibly could be taken by either party to bring a greater sense of comfort to this new relationship?
Sure, absolutely. An easement is probably the wrong tool to deal with the traffic issues and the overflow issues. Our operations have talked about WPS allowing One City to use our parking spots for some of their athletic events that they might have, which we are totally open to. That sounds great. WPS is a big supporter of One City schools, and we want to be a good neighbor to them. An easement is just not the right tool to do that. You would just enter into an agreement and say, okay, you can use our property from 5 to 9 on, you know, on Tuesdays and Wednesdays when you have events at your athletic facilities. And, you know, it would be a basic agreement, and we would work that out ourselves.
Mr. Smith?
Thank you. Megan said it very well. Certainly One City's concern is the control over and access to their campus. We will have a lot of young children walking. We're beginning teaching walking, biking, safety to students. A lot of students might arrive by public bus and transportation to the north of Angle Street. So by providing One City full control and access of Angle Street and that part of WPS Drive, we can really control our traffic flows, our queuing, keep cars from interfering with WPS traffic, and ensure that the parents, the students of One City are safe, and the WPS employees are safe, that you don't have that cross traffic going. And I think Megan addressed the concerns over the parking access and the large events very well with this. We're really looking at two separate issues. And for the CSM, we'd really like to just focus on the property boundaries, that the changing of the property boundaries really has no impact on the status quo right now, other than just saying, One City is going to own more of this street. We have presented the submissions for the July 12th Plan Commission meeting. We're due June 14th, I think the day of the Plan Commission hearing on the CSM. And we submitted a lot of information, including a traffic impact analysis for the overall impact on Broadway, site circulation information, and really the importance of having the safety be an issue. So what One City would like is to have the question of this, whether it's access, this direct access and this ring road that interrupts traffic flow versus the separate consideration of addressing parking on certain times, addressing emergency access. One City and WPS have already agreed to an emergency access easement that would provide the city of Monona access over each other's properties to get to there in the case of emergency. So we're really trying to look at that as a separate issue from right now the CSM. And by including a condition on the CSM, it really hamstrings our ability to work with WPS, work with the Plan Commission on what makes sense for this site as One City goes through phase 1, which is simply the school and readapting the Norby building for use as a initially K through 5, but ultimately K through 12 school. And then the second phase 2, which One City is really hoping to get to soon. We've got a lot of people working on it, and Colleen gets stuff done, but working on that athletic center, which is really a separate issue, likely to have to come back to the Plan Commission at some time in the future. So we're hoping to focus on the CSM, not have a condition added that's ambiguous and hampers our ability to work with the Plan Commission on what makes sense for our students and for WPS's employees. Thank you.
Alder Thomas.
Either Nancy or Doug, is there any chance that Plan Commission may be relooking at this issue at their next meeting?
Again, not the CSM, but again, as everyone here, just about everyone has pointed out, we see the easement as a separate issue. So we're actually prepared to visit the easement issue again at the next meeting. We expect it to be on the agenda. That's what Jared Smith has indicated, and WPS as well. And so this is really just about the changing of the property boundaries that's been approved at this point.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Alder Wood.
Yeah, I was just wondering if the city attorney had any comments to add.
Bill?
Well, it's a land division. So, you know, we can enforce our ordinance requirements, and to the extent they don't comply with our ordinance, we can preclude the land division. But if they do meet with the requirements, and the only one I'm aware of here is the access to a public street. If that lot meets that, then there's no legal basis to preclude the land division. Now, as I understand it, that's only with respect to the one city lot. That has been cured, and there is now direct access. But the remaining WPS lots, those should still be subject to the covenant or the easement, because those theoretically could be alienated at some point in time, and at least one of them could be landlocked. So the easement requirement certainly makes sense with respect to the existing WPS lots. With respect to the one city lot, it does comply with the code now with this alignment of the border. So to the extent the basis for acquiring that easement is the need for public road access, that has been satisfied now.
Alder Kur.
So if Attorney Cole says that we've satisfied the requirements of the ordinances and both parties want this easement removed, I'm just not clear as to why we're not interested in entertaining this at this point. Is there something more that we need to know, or it seems like I'm missing something.
Who can address that?
Doug, do you want me to address that? I mean, I can tell you for starters that that this was not reviewed by Attorney Cole at the time that the Plan Commission had met, nor had the 2001 easement been unearthed. I believe we were looking at a later version. Was that not the case, Doug?
I believe we had the reciprocal easement that was in the packet, the 2001 document. Yeah.
Okay. But Attorney Cole and again, we just felt like there was commission members, I should say, just felt like there was a lot of moving parts that were yet to be decided in terms of we have certainly C1 city schools primarily using Bridge and Engle, and WPS using its own drive for, but we were concerned about the entire separation. And I mean, if Attorney Cole feels like that meets the ordinance standards, then obviously this body has the opportunity to do something different. We didn't have that information at the time that we met.
Anyone else? This will come back for a vote at a future council meeting. Alder Thomas?
Yeah, I have a great deal of respect for the wisdom of the Plan Commission. And when they do things, sometimes they see stuff that others don't see ahead. And so I really would like them to, I mean, I agree with Alder Kur that, both parties want to do it. It complies with the ordinance, but that's a very complex parcel down there. And I certainly would like the Plan Commission to take one final look at the easement issue and make a recommendation to us before we make a final decision. That's just my take on it.
Anyone else? Okay, well, this will come back and they will have discussed it again at Plan Commission. Is that correct? Okay.
Correct.
All right, thank you all.
Thanks.
Final item C, consideration of ordinance 6-21-741, amending chapter 272 of the Code of Ordinances regulating intoxicating liquor and fermented malt beverages, put forth by the city attorney and the city clerk. Bill, would you like to address this?
Sure, thanks, Mayor. So this ordinance is in response to Act 21, the recently passed, commonly referred to as the Cocktails to Go statute, that allows Class B licensees to sell liquor by the container to go, as long as the container is in a sealed container. And that is now the statute. There is no ability of municipalities to opt out. So whether this council likes the statute or not, it is the law of the land. This ordinance is intended to conform our ordinances to the statutes, because our ordinances were drafted to mirror the prior statute that precluded such per container sales from Class B residents. So this is to conform to Act 21.
Alder Thomas.
Is there any reason not to take this out of order? And I mean, it's a no-brainer. We have to do it to comply. So I would move to suspend the rules and take this item out of order.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Move approval.
Second.
Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, thank you, Bill. We will move on to reports of committees, commissions, boards, etc. The first item is updates and discussion on diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. Does anyone on the council have anything they'd like to share? Alder Groupie.
I did some work with Nehemiah this week and Justified Anger specifically, and I wanted to let the council know and community members know that they are going to be offering a different and virtual format for their African American History for a New Day course this fall. And there are some informational sessions that are coming up in the coming months to just kind of give more information about what the formatting of this this course will be. And now, instead of being on Monday nights, which precludes council members from having the ability to take it, there's going to be greater flexibility with the schedule, and different community groups or educators, city leadership could work together as a team to enroll and take the course on a specific day at their own pace. So I just wanted to put it out there as something that if community members are interested in, they should check out Justified Anger /Nehemiah for more information. And I would say I think it would be a great thing if, as some members of our leadership or our leadership as a whole, city staff could somehow be involved in this training if it works out.
Thank you. This is something Brian and I have talked about, checking into this more thoroughly. Anyone else? Alder Coor and then Alder Wood.
I'm pleased to report that the Monona Public Library is having their signage redone to include Spanish signage, and expect that probably happening within the next couple months. We've got to pick out the layout of the signage at our next meeting, but I'm glad that this is moving forward. It'll make the library a more welcoming and accessible place for people who don't have English as their first language.
Okay, thank you.
For Alder Coor, when you say signage, do you mean wayfinding signage, or what type of signage specifically?
Wayfinding, yes.
Alder Wood.
Yeah, I last week attended a Madison Monona PD kind of outreach at La Rosita's and had some fun, hung out with some cops, and had some really tasty tacos. So
Great.
that's it.
Anyone else? Alder, go for it.
I just wanted to remind folks to take the transit survey if they haven't taken that yet. I don't think it's on the city's website, but we'll somehow, it was pushed out in the city's newsletter. And that transit survey is going to be open for a couple months at least. So we're wanting information from non-riders especially, and riders, just so we can make sure we're meeting the community's needs in the best way possible.
Alder Goforth, if you send me the link, I'll put it up on the website.
Wonderful, thanks.
Anything more about diversity and equity?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
That's okay. Alder Moore.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I honestly can't remember if I mentioned this the last time, but in doing some research, I think in doing some research around police training, I learned that Madison is one of only 4 departments in the state that do their own training, and that one of the things that they start with is a implicit bias quiz. Or test, if you will, that is online and administered by I believe it's Yale. And the researchers at Yale are actually looking to collect data, so anybody can go in and take it. It's it's free and open to the public to just go in and take the that test yourself, and it doesn't take that long to complete it. And it was interesting.
Where do you find it? Where do you go to?
I can send people the link. I can't remember the exact link off the top of my head, but I'll as I said, it's something that the Madison Police Department is using as part of their basis. I don't know, maybe Chief Jenny Austin has it more as fingertips since he's very familiar with it, but I will be sure to give everybody a link so that they can do that, and we can put that up for community members. But again, the researchers are just trying to collect data on a massive scale, and I found it to be very interesting.
Well, if you or the chief could send that out, that'd be great.
Sure.
Thank you. Anyone else? I just have a little update on the DEI work group. I have met with more people. I've had some really interesting discussions with a lot of community members. Brian Gatto and I are meeting with Nehemiah later this week regarding the work group and how the process is going to work, and we're trying to nail down some dates. We'll be trying to nail down some dates with them for an initial meeting. So partly because I have most of the decisions made about the appointments, but not quite all. And also because, I don't know if you remember, but in that resolution, there's a section where once we make the appointments, we have 6 months. And I hate to waste a month while we wait to get the process nailed down with Nehemiah and the dates. So I will be coming back with the appointments on July 19th. And we figure we'll be meeting later that month, I'm sure, by the time we get dates that work for everybody. So we'll keep you posted on that. Anyone else have anything on diversity? Alder Groupie.
Me again. Quick shout out to the mayor, city administrator Gatto, Alder Goforth, Chief Cheney Austin, all of the city staff and city leaders who helped plan and prepare for the Juneteenth celebration last Friday. It was awesome, and I hope that it's something that we can continue in the future. Toya Harrell, big shout out to her, wherever you are, Toya, listening. What a knockout performance. And it's just, I hope that we can have it continue to be a tradition that becomes formalized and official, and that we can publicize and continue to educate about this important day. I appreciate the Biden administration for making it a holiday so that people kind of get aware of it. But anyway, thank you everybody who organized that. It was such a treat, and I wish I could have stayed longer.
Okay.
We will be purchasing a flag, so we'll have it available for next year.
Okay, well then we'll move on to committee reports. So Alder Moore.
Yeah, there's a ZBA. We have a ZBA meeting on Thursday, which is a slight shift by a week to accommodate my schedule. Thank you. This week. And the only other thing that I wanted to mention was that Monona showed up in force on Saturday for the San Damiano cleanup organized by the Friends of San Damiano. I don't have exact numbers, but I know it was over 100 people plus their families. We had a lot of little kids there as well. They brought their garden tools and really, truly, all puns intended, knocked it out of the park. There were piles and piles of brush in virtually every corner of the parking lot, and made a huge dent. So big shout out to Parks and Rec for prepping everything in advance of Saturday, and to the Friends of San Damiano for organizing it so well, and to all the community members who put in a lot of sweat equity of all ages. We had 1-year-olds all the way up to 90-year-olds. And we even had one of the fathers from De Pere come down and join us. Norbertine from De Pere came down and join us. So, so it was great.
Alder Thomas.
No report.
Alder Goforth. Did you have anything else?
Yeah, I don't really have anything else, sorry.
Okay, Alder Kur.
Well, I'd like to echo Nancy's comments about the way I was impressed with the community coming out on Saturday. I spoke with a representative from the Friends of San Damiano, and his estimate is 175 people showed up. I was working along the shoreline pulling jewelweed, and a woman actually came off of one of the boats that are routinely parked in that area because it's a nice sandy beach, and walked to the shoreline to tell me how excited she was about the property and the fact that we were all out. And she's like, how did you find out about this? How do I get into this? So she, is somebody who's interested in volunteering. We also had a gentleman who was eating lunch at Crema, saw everybody over at the property, came over to find out what we were doing, ran home, got his chainsaw, and came back and cut wood on the beach. So like the enthusiasm for this event was just amazing. I heard from a lot of people that they'd like to see us do something in the fall, potentially have some sort of a cookout that would go with it. I think that this is an opportunity for us to do a lot of community building around this property. It's a unique site. People are really excited about it. They want to get involved. And so I think it's an opportunity for the city to kind of really do a lot of building of community. And I'm just so excited about it. I'm also incredibly sore. So that was my report.
Day, I think, weren't you?
Yeah, I was.
Above and beyond. Alder Groupie.
Take the transit survey, please, as Alder Goforth mentioned. And just a quick plug for, we talked about the Monona Community Festival earlier this evening. And on Sunday, the 4th, the Sustainability Committee will have a table out to kind of share their sustainability dashboard, upcoming and ongoing projects. And so even if you're not a big fan of wine or beer, which I feel is, everyone to each their own. But if you need another reason, please come visit our sustainability table there and learn more about what we do.
Alder Wood.
No report. I did want to mention that the library also did a Juneteenth children's story kind of thing Saturday morning on the 19th. So went over for that. It was, again, an excellent rendition of the Black National Anthem.
City Clerk, did you have anything?
No report, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, Chief McMullen.
All right, I get to go first again tonight. Good evening, everybody. I just have a couple of quick updates for the department. First of all, Chief Cheney Austin and myself are meeting, doing some festival planning for the public safety end that we're going to have in place before a festival goes live. That's making good progress. I have 4 new volunteers that have passed all their background checks, their reference checks. We'll get them in for physicals and get them started by the end of the month. 2 women and 2 men that are coming on board. As usual, I like to kind of build up my volunteers. Today is a good example. We've had 7 calls so far today, including a water rescue with 2 people in the water this morning. That at 9 o'clock this morning, I had 6 volunteers show up to help staff the trucks, which was fabulous. And PD was right behind me, which is great. So really good turnout this morning. We had a near drowning late last week down off Lotus Park. I am pleased to tell you I got a picture from the gentleman and his sister this morning. He had been released and is back home. No long-term ill effects at all, which is fantastic. Last thing I've got tonight is a good example of what we've been trying to do. You talk about community building, Alder Kerr. We provided an ambulance and a couple of volunteer staff, myself included, with the Cottage Grove Festival this last weekend. Because of the numbers they were looking at, they asked if we could come out and help, which we did. In return, they're going to come help us at our Monona Community Festival. Tonight, we had an ambulance down in McFarland, working with them with extrication training with 2 of our newer EMTs that are volunteers. So impressed, Dane County Emergency Management actually reached out during the meeting asking me what their names were because they were so impressed by how good our people were doing. So really good stuff going on. And I think that's it. I think we're having a great time. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Chief, I have a question.
Okay.
I understand from what I read that the people who are standing by did a great deal to help save that man. And will we have their names? And is there any way we can do something to thank them, honor them, do whatever?
I do have their names and their contact information. I'm actually in contact with them. I'm getting their permission to release their names. I will say the family of the victim has been very forthcoming about allowing me to speak about the call itself. Yes, the bystanders, we had a couple folks jump in the water and literally lifted him straight up out of the water, him and his motorized wheelchair, which is impressive. In my younger days, I couldn't have done that. And these are folks that are my age. So I'm very impressed by that. So yes, we will try and put something together. I know Chief Cheney Austin and myself are trying to put together a joint, basically commendation committee for both staff and the public for when events like this occur. I will say one quick thing. Alder Groupie, I like that paint color, by the way. So you don't have to change that. It looks pretty good.
Yours is the only opinion that matters. Thank you, Jerry.
Okay, Chief Cheney Austin. Anything to add?
Great day at the police department as well. So plus we're higher elevation than Jerry, so that makes us closer to Holy. So thank you for everyone for attending Tacos con Amigos en Azul at La Rosita. Fabulous tacos, fabulous establishment for hosting such a great community engagement event. We hope to continue that partnership with our Latinx community as we come here in the weeks and months and years to come. So the department is in the process of selecting and hiring a new police officer. So we are in our interview phase right now. We have some very qualified and diverse candidates to choose from the next couple weeks. We should hopefully narrow that down to 1 and present that to the 1 or 2 or 3 and present that to the PFC for ultimate selection. So hope to keep you posted on who your new police officer, she or he, will be. I want to also just thank folks for showing up to the Solar Plunge and 5K. This past weekend, fire department, you showed up in mass too. So thank you for showing up, and to all the community members who participated to give to what I think is a tremendous cause, which is the Special Olympics, and something that law enforcement has held in the state of Wisconsin and nationally close, near and dear to our heart as our law enforcement charity event. So continue to support the Special Olympics, and the Solar Plunge was a great showing. And it's a good sign that folks are anxious to get out and about. And so I have no doubt that the community festival will be a success based on what we were already seeing in the community. Also, something that's near and dear to my heart, I'll give a plug to the library, but drag queens. Story time, Pride Story Time at the Monona Library is on the 29th, I believe, at 6 p.m. So look it up, check out the criteria. They ask you to bring a child, hopefully your own, and take part in a great event in recognition for Pride Month as well. So, Mayor and Council, that is all I have.
Okay, well, thank you. Brian Gatto.
Mayor?
Just two quick things. One, Dane County is in the process of updating their hazard mitigation plan, which will cover the whole county and all of the municipalities incorporated in that. We will be participating in that process. So staff will work with public safety, members of the community to get input on some of the natural hazards that we have in our community that we need to be mindful of and create mitigation plans for. That work will begin in earnest here this summer and then hopefully conclude by the end of the year, and it'll be incorporated in their overall hazard mitigation plan update that has to be submitted to FEMA at the beginning part of next year. So we will be part of that. And then lastly, we're tracking towards not having a city council meeting on Monday, July 5th. So that's the way things look right now. If anything were to change, we'd obviously let you know as soon as possible, but that's the way we're looking right now.
Okay. Nancy, did you have something else to
Yeah,
add?
sorry, I don't recall Alder Thomas being called on for committee stuff, and I didn't know if she.
Well, she said she didn't have anything to report.
Okay, sorry. Well, there is a public safety meeting this week, Wednesday.
I just had a couple of things. I would also like to thank everyone who showed up for the San Damiano cleanup. I was there and it was very impressive. We even had the weatherman from Channel 15 was helping with the cleanup. So it was a great event. And there is the ribbon cutting is scheduled for this Thursday at 2. We've sent out quite a few invitations. So please, if you'd like to come, we'll have myself and County Exec Parisi will be there speaking, as well as Andrew Kitzler from the Friends and maybe one or two others. And then cutting the ribbon, and Jake assures me that the scissors will be sharp enough to cut this time. So, and we have some refreshments donated by some local businesses afterward, and I'm really hoping the rain holds off. Yeah, I think that's everything, other than to say that we are still tentatively planning on returning to in-person meetings on the 19th. So we will keep you posted on that. I don't think we have any appointments tonight. So is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.